Nicaragua. Just the name itself, it sounds ancient, almost epic. It comes from an old language, Nahuatl, and it meant here surrounded by water. And that's true. But today, it's known by another name, the land of fire and water, a place of just staggering beauty, but with a history that's been forged in conflict.
And that's really the central puzzle of Nicaragua, isn't it? It's a country of these intense opposites. You've got active volcanoes and massive calm lakes. You've got deep, crushing poverty right alongside immense natural riches, revolution and resilience. So how does a place like this, a country of such extremes, even begin to navigate its own story? Well, to figure that out, we have to start with the land itself.
To really understand Nicaragua, you have to begin with its geography. I mean, it's not just a pretty backdrop for the story. It's an active character. It shapes everything, from the economy to the national identity.
The sheer variety that's packed into this one country is, well, it's astounding. On one side, you have these fertile Pacific lowlands, and they're just punctuated by this chain of 40 volcanoes, the Fire Belt. Then you move inland, and everything changes. You're in these cooler highlands where all the coffee grows. And then, way out east, you hit the Caribbean coast, home to the enormous Bosawás rainforest. Oh, and get this. Deep inside Lake Nicaragua, you'll find something that exists nowhere else on Earth. The world's only freshwater sharks. They actually adapted from the ocean, swimming all the way up the San Juan River. Incredible.
And think about this for a second. Nearly 20% of the entire country is officially protected land. National parks, biological reserves. That is a huge commitment to preserving this incredible natural wealth. And that's what makes the country's economic struggles so stark.
But here's the thing. This geographical split, it isn't just about landscapes. It's perfectly mirrored by a deep, deep human and cultural divide. To really get Nicaragua, you have to understand that it is, in so many ways, two different countries living inside one border.
Okay, so on the Pacific side, that's where you find the heart of Spanish colonial history. It's where most of the people live. But then you go over to the Caribbean coast, and it's like you've entered a different world entirely. Why? Because it was a British protectorate for centuries. So what you hear is English and Creole, and the whole vibe feels much more connected to Jamaica or Belize than it does to the rest of Nicaragua. This history created two completely distinct worlds.
And when you bring those two worlds together, you get this incredibly complex tapestry of people. The majority are mestizo, which is a mix of Spanish and indigenous heritage. But you also have really significant white, black, and indigenous communities, and each one has its own unique story. From the Garifuna and Miskito peoples on the coast to the descendants of European settlers up in the highlands. Now, this entire cultural landscape was forged in a history of turmoil. You just can't understand the Nicaragua of today without hearing the deep echoes of conquest, of intervention, and of revolution that still ring out across the country.
When you look at the timeline of Nicaragua's history, a pattern just jumps out at you. From the Spanish conquest, to repeated U.S. occupations, to the absolutely brutal Samoa dictatorship and the bloody revolution that followed, the nation has been trapped in this relentless cycle. It's a cycle of internal power struggles that are almost always made worse by foreign intervention. And this isn't just ancient history. It has profoundly shaped the way people think and feel today.
And this is the voice of that resistance. Augusto Cesar Sandino. He was the guerrilla leader who fought against the U.S. Marines back in the 1930s, and he became this powerful national symbol. His fight for sovereignty is what inspired the Sandinista movement decades later, and his words, they just capture this core piece of the Nicaraguan identity, a fierce, unbreakable desire for self-determination. And the cost of that struggle, it has been immense. The Contra War, this brutal civil conflict that came right after the revolution, it just tore the country apart. 30,000 dead. That's not just a statistic. It represents the deep personal scars that so many Nicaraguans still carry from a war that pitted neighbor against neighbor, brother against brother.
But, and this is what's so amazing, out of all that fire, a remarkably resilient and vibrant culture has not only survived, it has thrived. This is the other side of Nicaragua's story. It's a story of creativity, of tradition, and of a deep, profound soul. You can feel this cultural heartbeat everywhere. You feel it in the literature through poets like Rubén Darío, who literally revolutionized the entire Spanish language. You see it on the stage with a play like El Güeguense, which is this brilliant satirical piece of protest theater from the colonial era. And you hear it in the music, from the unique sound of the marimba to the wild energy of the Palo de Mayo festival. Culture here isn't just art. It's a powerful form of identity.
And maybe nothing captures the essence of daily life better than gallo pinto. It's so simple, just rice and beans, but it's so much more than that. It is the taste of home. For almost every single Nicaraguan, this dish is what unifies the nation. It's a shared comfort, a symbol of national pride that you will find on every table, every day.
And all of this brings us to today, to right now, where Nicaragua once again finds itself at a crossroads, its future hanging in the balance between all of that immense potential and these really profound challenges. Which brings us to a harsh economic truth. This number, this is Nicaragua's nominal GDP per capita. It reveals a painful reality, that despite its rich lands and its vibrant culture, Nicaragua is still one of the poorest countries in the Americas. And that is a constant, immense pressure on the nation and its people. And it's not just about overall poverty. It's also about inequality. The country's Gini index is 46.2, which is considered high. What that number really shows you is a significant, tangible gap between the very wealthy and the very poor. And that kind of economic divide, well, it's often the fuel for social and political tension.
And you can see that tension playing out on the political stage right now. Following massive protests back in 2018, the country has experienced a really severe crackdown on any form of dissent. Many international observers now describe the government as authoritarian, which continues that long, painful historical cycle of political strife that we saw earlier. So we end right back where we started, with this fundamental question. For a nation that is so perfectly defined by fire and by water, which of those forces will shape its next chapter? Will it be the fire of conflict, of political turmoil? Or will it be the life-giving, resilient force of its water, its deep lakes, its rich culture, and its enduring people? The story of Nicaragua is still being written.